Let me tell you something that may feel uncomfortable. The person smiling in your music face could secretly be hoping you fail when you turn around. And if you don't learn to notice it early, you'll keep giving access to people who are slowly draining your energy. If this feels personal, pause for a moment and tap music like or follow. Not for me, but to remind yourself that awareness is strength. They give backhanded compliments dressed up as concern. And this is often the first crack in the system if you know how to see it. Real support feels clear and steady, while fake support always leaves something heavy behind. A backhanded compliment is not true praise. It is hierarchy hidden inside kindness. It sounds like, "I'm proud of you. I just didn't think you had it in you." Or, music, "That's impressive for someone like you." What they are really doing is sliding judgment inside wrapping paper. On the outside, it sounds positive, but underneath there is a quiet reminder of where they think you stand. Music. This is not careless wording. This is dominance framing. They are gently reinforcing a mental position where they see themselves above you, more skilled, more experienced, more worthy. People who secretly resent you rarely attack openly because music that would expose their feelings. Instead, they plant doubt while pretending to water your confidence. They offer concern that weakens, advice that shrinks you, praise that makes you smaller. Psychologically, this lets them feel superior without appearing aggressive. They release their resentment while keeping social cover. And here is the risky part. If you don't music see it, your nervous system absorbs the signal. Over time, you begin to question yourself. Music. You replay their comments. You slowly accept their frame without realizing it. That is how confidence fades quietly. Backhanded compliments are designed to make you feel thankful and small at the same time. They split your perception. They're being kind. Music. So why do I feel uneasy? That uncomfortable feeling is your intuition pointing out misalignment. Healthy people celebrate your progress without adding conditions. They don't sound shocked by your music ability. They don't attach disclaimers to your success. When someone repeatedly mixes praise with music's subtle criticism, it shows they feel threatened by your growth. Your improvement shakes their self-image, so they try to steady themselves by minimizing you. This behavior usually grows from insecurity, comparison, or quiet envy. But the reason is not the most important part. The pattern is. Anyone who needs to lower you in order to feel secure is not safe. Music closeness. The right response is not confrontation. It is calibration. You stop oversharing. You limit emotional access. You stop searching for validation music from that person. You observe, you adjust, and you guard your internal balance. Power is not reacting loudly. Power is recognizing the move and calmly changing your behavior. Remember, true allies do not decorate their support music with doubt. They don't hide skepticism inside compliments. They don't feel the need to remind you of music, your past limits, while acknowledging your current success. And once you see this clearly, you stop taking poison praise personally music because you understand it was never about your skill. It was about their discomfort with your rise. They celebrate your setbacks more than your wins. And this music one is quiet because it hides behind sympathy. But once you notice it, music, you cannot ignore it. When something good happens to you, their reaction feels flat, delayed, or oddly technical. They nod instead of smile. They say nice instead of that's amazing. They quickly shift the conversation back to themselves. There is no real emotional investment in your progress. But when something goes wrong, suddenly they lean forward, they ask many questions, they offer advice you did not ask for, they become animated, engaged, almost music excited. That shift tells you everything. People reveal their true alignment through emotional reaction, not just words. Someone who quietly resents you experiences your success as a threat because music disturbs the invisible ranking system they carry in their mind. Your growth music forces them to face their own stagnation, so their nervous system music searches for comfort. That comfort appears when you stumble. Your setback restores balance in their internal scoreboard. That is why their sympathy feels forced, while their curiosity during your failures feels genuine. They are not truly comforting you. they are calming themselves. Psychologically, this is known as downward comparison. They manage their self-worth by comparing themselves to someone, music, who is temporarily lower. It gives them a quiet sense of advantage without having to improve their own situation. And here is the dangerous part. If you continue sharing your struggles with someone like this, music, they begin to expect them. They quietly label you as the almost there person, the one who tries hard, the one who falls short. That music storyline becomes comfortable for them. So when you actually succeed, it creates tension. They do not know where to place you, music, anymore. That is why you may hear comments like, just don't get ahead of yourself, or let's see how long it lasts. That is not realism, that is containment. Music. They are trying to limit your momentum. Real allies feel uplifted by your victories. They feel motivated. They reflect your excitement. They music do not need extra proof. They do not wait for confirmation. They celebrate immediately because your success does not threaten who they are. But hidden haters need you manageable, predictable, slightly below them. Music. So they emotionally invest in your problems while emotionally pulling away from your progress. The right move here is not confrontation. It is music observation. You stop bringing them your good news. You stop giving them front row access to your sensitive moments. Music. You pay attention to who claps without being asked. You notice who only appears when you are hurting, because support that shows up mainly during your failures is not music real support. It is positioning. Once you understand this, you stop confusing attention with loyalty. You stop mixing up music advice with alignment. You learn to protect your wins quietly and heal in private. Remember, anyone who feels more energized when you are struggling is not music on your side. They are simply standing close enough to benefit from your fall. They quietly compete instead of cooperate. And this is where hidden hostility becomes strategic, because on the surface, everything still music looks warm, but underneath, there is a silent scoreboard in their mind. Every conversation becomes comparison. Every success becomes measurement. You share a goal, they immediately bring up music theirs. You talk about progress, they redirect to how far they have come. It is not open rivalry, it is subtle one-upmanship. Music. They never say, I'm competing with you. They just make sure their story comes right after yours, slightly louder, slightly greater. This happens because your presence touches their insecurity. Music. Instead of building side by side, they try to outrank you mentally. Collaboration requires shared respect. Competition requires hierarchy. And people who secretly dislike you depend on hierarchy because equality feels uncomfortable. They cannot simply feel happy music for you. They need to position themselves somewhere above or ahead. That is why they copy your ideas, mirror your steps, music, and suddenly show interest in whatever you are chasing. Not because they truly love it, but because music they cannot handle feeling behind. They do not ask how they can support you. They ask questions that sound curious but are actually quiet investigation. They study your timing, your routines, your next moves, then silently adjust their own so they never feel left behind. Music. Here is the critical part. If you do not see this clearly, you begin oversharing strategy. You explain your plans in detail. You music give deadlines. You reveal weak spots. Meanwhile, they are not offering the same openness. They are gathering information while guarding theirs. That imbalance explains everything. True collaborators exchange value. Hidden competitors collect it. You may also notice they struggle to give honest credit. They will say things like, music, yeah, we both did great, even when you carried most of the load. Or they frame your success as teamwork while privately highlighting their own effort in other spaces. That is image control. They do not want you standing alone in your win because that raises your status, so they water it down. Music. Psychologically, this grows from a scarcity mindset. They believe there is only limited space at the top, so instead of expanding the table, they try to push music for position. The right response is not aggression, it is awareness of boundaries. You stop sharing blueprints, you move quietly. You build silently. You let results speak without announcing every step. Because once you understand the game, you stop playing it out loud. You move from explaining music to taking action. You allow results to speak for themselves. Because competition hidden inside friendship only survives when you continue feeding music it information. Power is selective sharing. Power is understanding that not everyone walking next to you is truly walking with you. Music. Some are matching their pace against you, and once you recognize that pattern, you stop inviting them into your process. Music. You don't announce your milestones. You don't look for validation. You build quietly. Remember, people who truly support you don't try to race you. They run beside you. Anyone who needs to defeat you instead of build with you was never really on your team in the first place. They collect information about you and slowly turn it into a weapon. And this one is very dangerous because it hides itself as care, curiosity, or connection. At first, it feels normal. They ask about your past, your struggles, your relationships, your fears. They listen carefully. They nod. They remember small details. You think, finally, someone who really pays attention. But what you don't realize is that not everyone who listens is supporting you. Some people are not bonding with you. They are building a profile. Every weakness you share becomes future leverage. Every music mistake becomes saved data. Every insecurity becomes a button they can press. They don't use it immediately. That is what makes it strategic. Music. They wait. Then one day, casually, your private story shows up in a group conversation. Music. Or your insecurity is mentioned inside a joke. Or your past failure is brought up during an argument. And suddenly you feel exposed, small, and unprepared. That was not random. Music. That was planned use. Psychologically, this is known as covert dominance. They gather information to maintain control without open conflict. Music. It gives them influence while keeping their hands clean. And here is the trap. Because music, they collected it through friendly talks, you blame yourself for sharing too much instead of noticing the intention behind the questions. You begin thinking, maybe I said too much, instead of realizing they were asking very specific questions. Real music friends do not interrogate your weak points. They don't store mental files about your soft areas. They don't reopen your wounds later for positioning. Hidden haters do because they need advantage. They also tend to repeat your words back to you in a slightly changed way, quietly reshaping your story to make you appear music, unstable, emotional, or incapable. This is narrative control. They shape how other people see you using your own words. That is why you will notice they enjoy music, saying things like, "Didn't you say you struggle with that?" Or, "You told me before that music you're not very good under pressure." It sounds innocent, but it slowly rewrites your identity, music, in public. The correct response is not fear, it is accuracy. You stop giving access to unfinished music thoughts. You stop sharing raw emotions with people who have not earned that level of trust. You keep sensitive information separated. Music, you speak in broad terms instead of detailed specifics. Power is knowing that privacy equals protection. Your story is not public property. Music. And once you understand this pattern, you become more difficult to manipulate because music, there is nothing left for them to grab. Remember, someone who truly supports you does not music catalog your weaknesses. They help you improve them. Anyone who studies your vulnerabilities is not listening with their heart on music. They are listening with a plan. They also change their behavior when other people enter the room. And this one reveals music, everything, because people can fake words, but they struggle to fake consistency. When it is just you and them, they are warm, music, supportive, involved. They agree with you. They validate your ideas. But the moment new people appear, the energy shifts. Their tone becomes colder. Their body turns slightly away. They interrupt you. They speak over you. They suddenly act sarcastic or dismissive. This is not a mood swing. This is status music management. They are adjusting their position in real time based on who is watching. Alone with you, music, there is no audience, so they do not need to perform. In a group, hierarchy activates. they start protecting their image by quietly lowering yours. At first, you notice small things. They stop laughing at your jokes. They disagree with you over small details. They rephrase your comments like music. What they mean is, even when you explained yourself clearly. That is not clarification. That is control. They are signaling to the room that they have authority over your voice. Psychologically, this comes from social dominance behavior. Music. They feel threatened by your presence in front of others, so they reduce you to raise themselves. It is a subtle music power move. They do not attack directly because that would look aggressive. Instead, they use small signs of disrespect, minor interruptions, slight eye rolls, quiet exclusion from conversations. And here is the dangerous part. Because it is small, you doubt yourself. You think maybe you are being too sensitive, music, but your nervous system already noticed it. Your body felt the shift before your mind explained it. Real allies do not change faces, music, depending on the environment. Their respect remains steady whether you are alone or in a crowd. Hidden haters are kind in private because there is nothing to gain socially. In public, they treat you like competition. That tells you music, their kindness was conditional. The right response is not emotional confrontation. It is quiet observation and music adjusting access. You stop engaging in group dynamics where they try to position themselves above you. You shorten your answers. You stay composed. You allow them to reveal themselves through repeated patterns because consistency shows character and inconsistency shows strategy. Power here is emotional neutrality. You do not chase their approval. You do not copy their behavior. You simply notice and move accordingly. Music. Remember, anyone who respects you only in private does not respect you at all. They respect convenience. And once you understand that, you stop giving music them front row access to your presence. They also minimize your achievements while highlighting their own. And this is the final confirmation because it shows how deeply threatened they are by your growth. You share something meaningful you achieved, and they respond with a quiet, nice, then quickly turn the focus to their own story. Music. Or they describe your success as luck, timing, or help from others, while describing their own wins as the result of discipline, sacrifice, and music intelligence. That difference is not random. It is identity protection. Your progress challenges the story they tell themselves about who is ahead, who is smarter, who is more capable, so they adjust reality in their favor. They shrink your victories and magnify theirs to protect their psychological rank. You may hear phrases like, anyone could have done that, music, or it's not really that difficult, right after you share something you worked hard for. Meanwhile, their achievements come with music, long explanations, emotional detail, and emphasis. This builds a quiet narrative where you appear average and they appear exceptional. And if you stay in that environment long enough, it slowly affects how you see yourself. That is the danger. They do not need to insult you directly, they simply downgrade you quietly while upgrading themselves. Music. Psychologically, this comes from fragile confidence. People who are secure do not compete with your success. They grow with it. But people who secretly resent you need to stay the strong one music in the relationship. So they make sure your wins feel small and theirs feel huge. They also like to remind you of your past mistakes, especially when you are moving forward, bringing up music old failures during moments of progress. That is not reflection. That is anchoring. They are trying to keep music you mentally tied to an outdated version of yourself because the current version threatens them. The correct response here is not proving your worth. It is stepping out of comparison. Music. You stop announcing milestones. You stop looking for recognition from that source. You let results exist without constant explanation. You understand that validation from insecure people always carries a price. Power is quiet confidence. Power is not needing your victories to be recognized by someone who benefits from ignoring them. Because real allies do not limit praise. They are not surprised by your ability. They do not feel smaller when you expand. And once you see this pattern, music, you stop explaining your growth. You stop defending your success. You build silently and let distance music speak for you. Remember, anyone who needs to make you smaller in order to feel bigger is already showing you exactly where they stand.